Hello and welcome to another 140k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a big thank you to Brian Holman for sending in an awesome picture of his converted Sergeant Ripper Jackson model. She is going to be a platoon commander for the Talon 93rd. She's going to have a bolt gun, obviously, but also the Dagger of Tusaka. Absolutely fantastic. One of my favourite relics of all time. Although, as you said, you could run this cool little funky dagger as the claw of the Desert Tigers. I get it, I dig it. You know, Brian, I'm up for it. But you know, me personally, I'm a Dagger of Tusaka guy. And I still, after many years of having this codex, don't know how to pronounce that relic. But that's how I've always said it. So that's how we'll say it for now. Absolutely awesome conversion. Really like that you've changed the headgear on it. Looks really, really good. Also interesting that you've taken off the usual basing and put a bit more of a desert themed one. Quite like it. Little subtle conversion that I missed the first time I saw these pictures, but I spotted it now. And I just think overall just really, really, really cool conversion. Really good paint scheme. So thank you for sending this picture in, Brian. Looks absolutely fantastic. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's video. And these pictures are very appropriate for what we're going to be talking about today, because we are going to be doing a quick tip tactica on Imperial Guard officers. What are the best loadouts to be giving your command boys? Well, let's take a look at it today. Last video we talked about Imperial Guard infantry squad sergeants and what was the best equipment to give to them, and the conclusion for that was better sticking with your last pistol and chainsaw, because you're going to be using those squads to push up, take ground, getting into close range firefights. So more often than not, you're going to want to be chucking a frag grenade at someone, and you don't really want to be loading your sergeants up with loads of expensive equipment, because they die very quickly and they don't really hit very often with it. And even the sort of bolt gun that used to be a favourite of Imperial Guard sergeants, now it's doubled in price. It's not as a tempting prospect. And power swords, basically, they're expensive. You can only take power swords on your Imperial Guard sergeants. That's the only power weapon you've got access to. They're expensive, and overall, often they're a downgrade because of invulnerable saves, so you're better off sticking with that chainsaw. So basically, it's a frag grenade and chainsaw sergeant more than a last pistol and chainsaw sergeant. So that's what we talked about last video. Is the same true for Imperial Guard officers? Well, yes and no. Okay, we'll go through quickly the options that they have available, and then I'll tell you why I think there's two better options to choose from. Won't go into huge amounts of deep dive and detail. We've already covered a lot of this in the previous video, guys. If you haven't watched that one, go and watch it. I will make sure that there will be a link to that video at the end of this one. So you just want to skip ahead and click on that link, that'd be absolutely fine. Right, so the options available are, like I said, very, very similar. The only real difference between a Imperial Guard sergeant and an Imperial Guard officer is the officer class gets access to the Power Fist. Okay, now, so we'll cover the Power Fist first, which is it worth it? Now, Power Fist is expensive. It's 10 points in 9th edition, and it causes you to have a -1 to hit, but it doubles your strength, and it's currently D3 damage, but based on what we've seen from Space Marines, it's going to get changed to a flat damage, which will be really good. Now, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at it. So, it causes -1 to hit. That's a big problem. Guard officers do hit that on ballistic skill 3+ and weapon skill 3+, which is good. But if you put that -1 to hit on them from the Power Fist, they're only hitting half the time. Now, best case scenario, you've got a priest nearby. Both your junior officers and your platoon commanders have got the same amount of attacks in combat, both got 3. Even if there's a priest nearby, you'll have 4. That's only 2 attacks that you're going to hit with. It's not ideal. Now, Power Fists on the Guard are not as good as they are on Marines, because Marines, your strength gets doubled to strength 8, which allows you to wound most other Marine and Marine equivalents out there on 2s. But with Guard, it means you're only wounding them on 3s, because you're only strength 6, they're toughness 3, toughness 4, or toughness 5 now, so you're only wounding on 3s. Now, I would say overall the Power Fist isn't worth it, and I'll tell you why. Quite simply, you do not want your characters getting into combat. at all. In fact, you don't want to be giving them power swords or power fists from a competitive standpoint. Rule of cool, load them up on upgrades. No true guard officer should go without one form of power weapon or another. But from a competitive standpoint, they are expensive upgrades that will rarely see use. They are more rule of cool, and yeah, you don't want your guard officers in combat. Why not? Because the guard has a lot of characters. Even if you're not running your pure infantry army, now from a competitive standpoint, it's becoming quite clear. We're seeing it in multiple small tournaments now, and the occasional big tournament as well, that guard infantry armies are making waves, and horde armies in general are making waves. What does that mean? If you're running a horde guard army, you're going to have a shitload of characters. You're going to. And you cannot afford to give away 3 points to assassinate for each one of those characters, which means you have to keep them safe, which means not having them on the front lines, which means not going to get to use those power weapons. So sorry, power weapons are out. Not ideal. Likewise, you looking at the plasma pistol, look at the shooting options that we have available. You don't want to give your officers plasma pistols. Yes, they hit a 3+, but you're not going to overcharge them. Even if you've got Yarrick nearby or Harker giving you some form of reroll ones, even if you tell your officer to reroll ones himself, you're not going to want to overcharge it, because if he dies, even if you kill your own officer, your opponent will get 3 points for it. Okay? In Assassinate. Do not do it. Okay? Which means you're stuck with a damage 1 weapon. Yes, it's strength 7. Yes, it's AP -3. But it's only damage 1. And we all know that plasma is nothing to write home about unless it is overcharged. It might as well only have the overcharge profile as far as almost anyone is concerned. Okay? In the rare circumstance where you start shooting gaunts with it, or grots, then don't worry about the overcharge. But even against orcs, which are only like 1 wound on their boys, they're tough as 4, so you're going to want to overcharge it, because you're going to want to wound them on 2s, because I guarantee if you don't, you're going to roll a 2 to wound on strength 7, that ain't going to kill him. So you don't want plasma pistols on your officers, because you don't want them to kill themselves. So, what does that leave us? Bolter, bolt pistol. Bolt pistol, we don't want that either, okay? Because it's too short range, it's 12 inches, that's a similar problem with the plasma pistol. It's too short range, it's only 12 inches, you really don't want your officers that close to the fighting. I mean, you just don't want it, okay? So, and also bolt pistols are the same price as the bolter, and you're never going to want to have your officer in combat, so you're never going to get to use the advantage of having a bolt pistol over bolter, which is a very minuscule advantage at best. So, sorry, it's gone. So we are left. This is looking very similar to it's looking very similar to, for different reasons, especially on power weapons, but this is looking very similar to the Sergeant thing, Mordian Glory. You said it would be different. Well, I said it was yes and no. Okay. Now, bolters are a perfectly legitimate choice for your officer. Okay? Unlike on sergeants, they're a perfectly legitimate choice. Why? Okay? Because they are longer ranged. It allows your officer to contribute to the fight without having to put him at risk. He can stay out of harm's way, and he can blast away with his bolt round. Now, he hits on a 3. Okay? Which means he will get more use out of his bolter than a sergeant will. Sergeant is going to be up close and personal and probably going to die, and he's only hits on 4s anyway, so what the hell? And it's too expensive, because if you put a bolter on every sergeant, it's going to start, especially for Imperial infantry, it's going to start racking up. You know, it's going to be, for all those bolters, you could get another infantry squad, or almost, you know. So with officers, it's different though. You're only going to have 6 officers at most, 3 platoon, 3 company commander. You start going for special ones like Creed, you can't take a bolter anyway. You may want to start putting them on your commissars, maybe, but that's a video for another time. With your officers, you want to give them bolters because, like I said, they can actually get use of it with a 3+ to hit, and they can actually do something in helping to kill enemies without putting themselves in harm's way. However, I would not say that you want to necessarily put bolters on every single officer. Okay? They're a good upgrade, but they are not a necessity at all, because your officers, first and foremost, are not there to do damage. They are there to be force multipliers via orders. So my first choice would be to keep your officers with a las pistol and chainsword. Okay, that would be my recommendation. Keep them super points efficient. However, the bolter is a perfectly valid option, especially, without a shadow of a doubt, especially if you are taking a regiment trait that increases the range of its rapid fire capability. Either you are taking Armageddon Steel Legion for 18-inch rapid fire, or you are taking Disciplined Shooters for 18-inch rapid fire, custom regiment trait, or you're taking Destroyan for 15-inch rapid fire. Not as good, but still a worthy mention, honourable mention. If you are taking any of those three traits, I would recommend putting for sure a bolt on each one of your officers, because they're definitely going to be able to contribute to the fight whilst staying very safe behind the front lines. For anyone else, I would probably stick to las pistol and chainsword, but a bolter is still fine. I wouldn't lose any sleep over whether you should take a bolter or not. It's totally fine. So there we go, guys. Little different to the last video, similar obviously, but different. Officers are a bit of a different beast. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that you should be taking other weapons like power swords and power fists and plasma pistols and all that kind of stuff? Obviously, this video is specifically talking about platoon commanders and company commanders. When it comes to things like Tempesta Primes, Commissars, these alternative officer-like models, they will have different loadouts, which will favour them, and we'll get to those in future videos. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.